If you're joining us today, because you might be wondering, why does Bitcoin and the crypto markets, why do they keep going down? Everyone keeps talking about October, a bull market, a bullish Q4. Why do the prices keep going down? We might have an answer for you. We're going to talk about that with Forrest, who'll be joining us today. We also have some news on some altcoins, including Ripple and what Uniswap is doing to kind of catch up to what Jupiter, their largest competitor on the other side of the chain with Solana, is doing. And could Uniswap take back some of the market share that it has lost to DEX aggregators like Jupiter? We're also going to talk about CPI numbers coming in. What does that mean for the markets? Is this why the prices have gone down? We'll talk about that. And also, the SEC continues its rampage against crypto companies. Who have they sued, and which tokens have they labeled securities? And what does that mean going into 2025? We'll take a look at some charts and that and much, much more on today's episode of Sin City Crypto. Let's go. Whatever that guy says. Welcome. My name is David. No Robin today. Just me, Rocco, and Forrest, the dynamic trio. Guys, I'm excited for today's show. We have Forrest joining us today. You know, Forrest and I were talking before we went live. He's got a lot of interesting thoughts on what is currently going on in the markets, and I'm super excited for him to share that with you. But Forrest, instead of Forrest Friday, we have Forrest Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you, my friend. Are you panic selling all your bags?
No, but I'm considering just moving everything over into TradFi. It's just crypto has been such a poor performing market recently. It's actually remarkable how bad crypto has been performing for the last 6 months as compared against the stock market, equities, gold, and silver. Just everybody is making money except for crypto people. It's remarkable.
Interesting. Now, Forrest, so what you're pretty much saying is we've seen a divergence, right? Typically, you know, we always talk about risk on. When investors go risk on, we think about stocks, we think about mutual funds, we also think about crypto, Bitcoin, altcoins. It seems like part of the market risk on, they're like, okay, yeah, we'll throw money at it, like you mentioned, the S&P 500 stocks. The other half of the risk on assets, crypto, is seemingly going down. So they've diverged. Do you think that gap is going to close and crypto will eventually catch up in 2025? Or do you see this trend continuing, whether it's because we're going to see something similar to what we saw in the 2000s with the tech stocks, where everything ran hot, everything crashed, and then 7 years of just sideways downward chop until the phoenixes rose from the ashes, right? The Amazons, the eBays, the all the other tech stocks that are now thriving. Or do you think that this is just a short divergence away from what the traditional markets have done?
To be honest, I don't know the answer. I really don't. I mean, you can blame it on a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, when prices going down, sometimes it can be a supply issue, but oftentimes it's just a lack of demand, a lack of a bid. When the S&P 500, gold, and silver are going up, that means money is flowing, dollars are flowing into those assets. And right now, Bitcoin's pretty vertical down on for the last several days. Technically, we still have what might continue to form a longer term uptrend. We can get into the charts in a little bit, but recently, I mean, we're sitting in an ABC correction. If we don't bounce between 57 and 59K, this chart could just get very, very ugly, very, very quickly. But to answer your question, I think it's just a lack of demand. There's just Bitcoin is not a very attractive asset to retail or maybe even institutions at this moment in time, when you've got gold and silver rallying, and you've got countries and banks and central banks bidding gold and silver up as an inflation hedge. And apart from crypto, the only other market that's doing really, really poorly is the bond market, which is pretty understandable because there's an infinite supply there. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. It'll be at the very least, I think the best hope for crypto is the election, and Trump, signing a bill or approving a bill later on down the road. If we can, if for a strategic Bitcoin reserve, if that manifests in any way, I think that is the next step for Bitcoin to see some real demand. But otherwise, this has been a long term retail driven market, and just the retail flows are not there right now. They're just not there.
We'll get back on the conversation of how important retail is for this market, but we talk about you mentioned blaming things, right? Well, one thing a lot of people are blaming it on maybe is CPI print came in, and it came in higher than expected. So this headline here from the block: Bitcoin slips lower alongside stocks after higher than expected CPI inflation print. Now, it wasn't that much high. It was only 0.1. So Bitcoin slipped lower alongside global stocks after a slightly higher than expected U.S. inflation print and a jump in weekly jobless claims. The U.S. Consumer Price Index increased by 0.2 in September, marginally exceeding expectations of a 0.1% rise. We take a look at where we at CPI. We're at 2.4%. And so we're the closest we've been to the Fed's target rate of 2%. But of course, like, as a disclaimer, I don't believe these numbers. They literally walk around with clipboards and go to restaurants, or not restaurants, go to grocery stores and whatnot and say, how much did you charge for it last month? How much are you charging it for now? Perfect. And they went from 2 years looking at a basket of goods to now 1 year. And so year over year, if people stop buying things that become more expensive, that is not included in next year's CPI basket of goods. And so it's a skewed way of trying to find out what the true inflation is. I don't know if you agree, Forrest. I think real inflation is much higher than 2.4%. But the thing here is, this is what investors look at. This is what those trading bots and algorithms, these are the headlines they take when they put in buy and sell orders. And we're at 2.4%, and core, which is less food and energy, is at 3.3%. We know the Fed cut 50 basis points. They're already talking about cutting another 50 potentially. So people are wondering, what's going on? Why are the markets going down? Do you think CPI has anything to do with the correction here, Forrest? And if it does, what percentage would you put on it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a little bit. We kind of saw a fear sell off yesterday, worry, some worry in the market that we would see a higher inflation number, and then obviously that number did come in. I still believe, like, net, it's a reduction in inflation. It just came in hotter than expected, so 2.4%, and the Fed's already started cutting rates. So the worry is that we're not going to get those rate cuts. But I mean, at the end of the day, look. You know what else is considered a risk asset that is not tanking today? QQQ, S&P 500. Yeah, they're down, right? They're down 0.28%, and QQQ is down 0.16%. Like Palantir stock, that's a risk asset, down 0.02%. You look at some of these other equities, you've got Netflix is up 0.5%, Nvidia is up 1.5%. GameStop is up 1.5%. AMC is up 3%. It's just like they're, ultimately, there's other risk assets that are doing fine regardless of this inflation report. Yes, CPI came in a little bit hot, and you can definitely see the bid that flowed into gold and silver as a result. At the end of the day, gold and silver seem, particularly gold, seem to be the inflation hedge as of choice. If Bitcoin was going to be treated as an inflation hedge, and this is just a reality, this is just looking at the data, looking at the divergences. What does price action do when inflation ticks up or comes in higher than expected? Gold and silver go up, Bitcoin tanking, right? So I think it's hard to call it an inflation hedge and look at it as an inflation hedge right now. It seems to be in an identity crisis where Is it, when the Nasdaq and when stocks go down, Bitcoin seems to go down. When gold and silver go down, Bitcoin also seems to go down. It kind
Right.
of just it's stuck in the middle, where it just doesn't have a very clear correlated bid to whether it's a risk asset and correlated to tech stocks, or a store of value and inflation hedging correlated to gold and silver. So yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I do think, I hate to come across as too bearish here, because I do think we're about to probably see somewhat of a bounce here soon. We're starting to see some bids come in a little bit, some liquidations. So I do think that we see a bounce, and could get a solid couple days ahead of us. But yeah, CPI definitely a factor, but it's driving it's not driving stocks in equities and other risk assets down nearly as much as it is Bitcoin and crypto in general. So it's interesting out there. That's for certain.
Forrest, I'm probably gonna scare the living shit out of some people by saying this, but I think there's a real possibility we see in the crypto markets what we saw in the 2000s with the tech stocks, right? Everything ran hot, the dot-com bubble. You had companies that were trading at $70, $80, right, per share per earning, right? Their P to E. And it was just so overvalued. And Forrest, you bring this up all the time, and I know it was last cycle, but Hex got up to $80 billion. We see some projects that haven't done anything sitting at $4-5 billion. Like, in the traditional world, do you guys understand what it takes to take a company to a $1 billion market cap valuation? It's hard. It's not something that happens all the time, right? And so I think it's a real conversation to have, and saying technology in the early 2000s really revamped the way we do things, the way we live our lives every day, the way we interact with people, the way we interact with the internet. And it was a 7-year cool-off period where stocks like Amazon were trading sub $3. So could we see something similar in the crypto markets, where we see 5, 6, 7 years of just basement prices until the actual utility starts to kick in, and then that's what drives the prices higher? What percentage would you put on that scenario unfolding for us?
Oh, like just like straight up going into a deep bear market here for all of crypto. I wouldn't say like, full on bear market from here, unless we just get a really hard landing and stocks also crash. Um, which is entirely possible. I mean, we've got the inverted yield curve and all of these other things. At the end of the day, crypto does have a big, kind of supply glut in terms of like the number of tokens that have launched and all of the infra tokens that just don't have users. So like it's entirely possible that a lot of tokens just get totally washed out. They for a large part already have. But I mean, we were kind of joking about this last week with like FTX token, $668 million fully diluted valuation for a token that is
That's crazy.
completely and utterly worthless. There is in yes, and if the market turns bullish, we were joking, yeah, FTT could absolutely run, because that's the kind of market that the crypto market is. And it's kind of to some, maybe in a lot of people's minds, and there's truth to this, is it's kind of a clown market at times, which can provide a lot of opportunities. But when Bitcoin starts underperforming and there's other asset classes out there that are looking more attractive, it can really dry up the flows into some of these other projects that are not quite at the level of adoption and development to really see positive use cases. So we'll see. Look, I still think that ultimately, like crypto's come a long way. You look at the last time Bitcoin was 60K, 4 years ago in 2021. That was obviously deep into a bull market, but we've got an ETF now. We've got other levels of institutional adoption that have come down the pipeline. So I don't necessarily think crypto is going away or dead or going into a bear market. In fact, like historically, we do see these kind of October dips and then rips, and we're coming up on the time frame where we would expect positive price action for Bitcoin historically based on halving cycles. So I think it does have a bright future, but I think when you're in a market that's very antsy in general about potential recession, about what is the real use case of crypto and the amount of adoption, then you've got such a big election on the horizon. People get afraid to bet on emerging asset classes. The good news in that sense is like, if you're somebody who believes that Trump is going to be very pro crypto and potentially push towards a strategic reserve for Bitcoin, he is blowing the lead wide open. It's like 55-44 or something. It's insane how big of a lead he's blown. It's 55.5 to 44. So
Damn.
it is widening by the hour recently. The last couple days, it is widened quite a bit. So that should reflect well for crypto in the long term, but we'll see if that's just a divergence temporary and Bitcoin bounces back here short term.
Yeah, I agree. If I were to put a percentage on that 2000 style, bear market scenario, I put it at like 20-25%. But I do agree there's a lot of tokens that don't deserve the valuation they have. Forrest, I know we mentioned before we hopped on the show live that maybe we can pull up the bid ask spread as far as what's the demand looking like versus what's the sell looking like. And you had mentioned we might be getting close to a bottom. Do you mind showing that to the people watching?
Yeah, for sure. And again, I hate to come across as too bearish here. It's just like, when you look at Bitcoin versus stocks today and gold and silver, it's like, come on, where's the bid? And speaking of where is the bid, so we've got High Block here. Shout out to High Block. It is a paid tool. But we're on the 15-minute chart. You can see I've kind of outlined just a very rough structure here of Bitcoin trending downwards. And now we're starting to get what is kind of like might call a clearance dump or a acceleration or capitulation, whatever you want to, whatever you want to call it. But essentially we've departed or accelerated from this general area. And we started seeing that acceleration yesterday into CPI, got a little bit of a bounce leading into CPI, and now just dumping afterwards. So these red levels, these are short liquidations. These green levels are long liquidations. So, when I was posting in the Discord yesterday and our community Discord yesterday and this morning was that Bitcoin seemed, even once we started, kind of losing this level here, Bitcoin seemed to really want these long liquidations. And you can see there's one more down there at 58.8. We'll see if we get there. And then in general, 57 is a big level. I think we could wick to 57. You can see there's more, kind of longer term liquidations down there, all the way down to 57. So I'll get rid of those liquidation levels. Just keep in mind 57 to 59K, going to be a lot of long liquidations in this market. But then, talking about the bid ask ratio, that's what this is here in the yellowish. And what that means is that the bids, right? The bids within a certain percentage, I believe it's 5%. Yeah, within a 5% range for this, the price Bitcoin's currently at. There's more bids than asks right now. So, we're basically diving into the thickest part of the order book right now, when you compare bid to ask. So generally speaking, when you start to highlight, right, when bid ask goes over a certain threshold or a certain ratio, and I think the ratio that I've got put in is like 0.15. Historically, this is where you see bottoms, and we're actually seeing we're seeing bid ask spike to 0.27 right now. That means Bitcoin price is just diving in. There's a ton of bids within 5% of the current price, just a lot, right?
And bids,
so a lot of limit orders down there wanting to get filled. Now you can kind of see short-term bid ask, and then the bid gets pulled and then we dive down. Where was the previous bid ask that caused a bottom? It was under 60K. Right. And we've just been nose diving into that bid right now. So we should, if we can collect some of those liquidations down there, we should, in theory, bounce relatively soon. If we go back historically and we look at this entire range, we're actually seeing the bid ask ratio at all-time highs as we speak. It's spiking up to 0.27 and 0.28. That's as high as I've ever seen it historically in live time. And then if we look back at, this will take a second to load, but some of these historic bottoms that we've seen where bid ask spikes quite a bit, here and here, and then even going back down to our 49K wick. We very, very rarely here we saw it spike, to 0.3, I think, and that was a bottom. And then obviously over here, I know it's a little bit more difficult to see because I'm zoomed out. We saw it spike super high at a 0.4, but to be fair, that was after a raging bull trend, and that was our first correction. So there's going to be a lot of people itching to buy that first correction after Bitcoin's just been straight up for so long. So historically, anytime we've seen bid ask get this out of whack to the upside, it has been a bottom. And that's why I do think we're going to bounce here. We've got lots of support, 57 to 59. It's just a matter of, surviving, not getting liquidated here, not, being in altcoins that are spewing off right now. So yeah, I think it's a reasonable time to bid. It's just it's rough out there when you have the opportunity cost of being in Nvidia or any other gold, silver, any other asset that's just outperforming quite a bit here.
Yeah, and for those people that are maybe not familiar with the terminology bid and ask, just think of it this way: bids are buyers, asks are sellers, right? Keep things to keep things.
So there's
straight.
a lot more buyers than sellers in this order book right now, as dictated by this particular indicator.
Yeah,
here.
Oh, that's some good stuff, Forrest. Thank you so much for that. I do want to move on, but before I move on, I want to give a big thank you to today's channel sponsor. Today's show is brought to you by Legacy Academy and the Legacy Academy app, which is live on Google and Apple Play stores. You can learn and earn through the Legacy app. And also, speaking of earning, you can earn their LGCT token, which is live in the app. That token is going live in the very, very near future. And I'll just leave it at this. You're going to want to have some of those LGCT tokens in your Legacy Academy app wallet. So big shout out to Legacy. If you want to learn more, there's a link in the description. Join their Telegram and download the Legacy Academy app. It's 100% free, and it's a great app. Now, Forrest, I want to shift this conversation to a three-letter agency that is none other than the FBI. I'm sure you heard about what happened, but for the people watching, if you're not familiar, the FBI went full degen. They did the Uno reverse card. They said, here, draw 4, because we're going to indict your ass. So this is from Tier 10K on X. The FBI created their own coin called the Next Fund AI token and enlisted the services of the firms indicted to catch them. The FBI, and I'll go to this article here. So this article from Daily Coin, how the FBI used a crypto token to bust a major fraud ring. The latest crackdown in the ongoing trend of hacks and scams comes from the FBI, which recently busted a market manipulation scheme, albeit with an interesting twist. According to the indictment, the individuals involved made false claims about various tokens, executing sham trades to paint a false appearance of value to investors. To infiltrate the scheme, the FBI crafted a seemingly legitimate token called Next Fund AI, which allowed the perpetrators to be identified and trapped. This is a quote from the special agent in charge of the FBI Boston division, Jody Cohen. Quote, what the FBI uncovered in this case is essentially a new twist to old school financial crime. The FBI took the unprecedented step of creating its very own cryptocurrency token and company to identify, disrupt, and bring these alleged fraudsters to justice. Talking about the people that got indicted, I don't know any of these people, Russell Armand, Maxwell Hernandez. Anyways, these individuals hired so-called market makers, ZM Quant and Gotbit, to provide market manipulation services, which included generating artificial trading volume and manipulating various asset prices. Quite interesting. I kind of like this, man. I kind of do. I think it keeps people on edge. The people that consistently just scam people, take their money, falsify information, falsify metrics. At any point, like the next time you're ready to scam someone or manipulate something, you got to sit there and think. You got to be like, oh, okay, can I say for sure that like the FBI or CIA, this is not their token, and I'm about to get trapped here and then indicted and go to jail. I kind of see this as a net positive. What are your thoughts, Forrest?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a good thing. I think there's a lot of this that happens in crypto in particular, but also just all markets. I mean, I think this is happening in the stock market. I think it's happening in commodities markets at a larger scale. Those markets are a little bit more regulated and they have a little bit more clarity in them in terms of regulatory requirements. And crypto is still kind of the wild west in a lot of ways. But yeah, you definitely don't want to see people getting taken advantage of. You don't want to see people getting scammed. Unfortunately, it's such a rampant thing that occurs in the crypto industry, which is I think another reason why crypto as a whole is struggling so much as an asset class because you've got so much of this stuff going on. You have investors being taken advantage of, getting scammed, and it's sad to see. It really is. It's sad to see, and I think it makes crypto much less investable. It's kind of a stain on the reputation of crypto. So it is good to see some of this getting cleaned up. I think this is just scratching the surface, though, in terms of the amount of fraud that goes on in the space and in markets in general. Again, not just
Yeah.
crypto, but I think it happens everywhere. But yeah, it's good to see some of it getting cleaned up and targeted because, like you said, it does make people hesitate before they go and commit these acts.
Yeah.
Now that there's been a history of prosecution.
Yeah, Forrest, we had some good combos before we went live, but the other thing we talked about was the role of the retail investor in this market cycle. And when you look at things like this, and we know fraud happens everywhere, right? But I think it's pretty safe to say if you put your money in the S&P, any S&P 500 stock, there's really like a very slim chance that goes to zero, right? Versus you have a retail investor who only has a limited amount of money, right? Inflation's high, car insurance is high, mortgage rates are high, rent is like, people are having to find second and third jobs. So money is tight. There's not a lot of discretionary income. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this crypto thing a try. I get in there and I get scammed, or I lose my seed phrase, or I get whatever the case may be. And so it's not a very safe space for the novice people, right? The people like maybe you watching, or for me and you, Forrest, we've been in the space for a while. I'm sure I've gotten scammed once or twice as far as buying some coin that ended up rugging. I'm pretty sure, Forrest, you trade a lot. I'm sure maybe you've had a couple of those potentially, and I'm sure people watching have had it as well. But we've been able to understand what it is and move forward. A lot of people, when they go through that experience, they're like, yeah, no way. The people were right. This is a scam. They leave and never come back. And so the money that's sloshing around in the market now, there's only so long that it can continue to slosh up and prop the prices up, especially when you have a lot of these projects that are continually releasing tokens into the supply. They're diluting their own supply. They're diluting their market cap, which sends the price down. You don't see that in the traditional markets, right? You see it every once in a while when they're like, hey, we're going to issue another, 500,000 shares. That dilutes it, but it's like people expect it, they know, and it has to be announced and go through the proper channels. We don't really see that in crypto. Like every month, SUI releases let's just call it 1 billion tokens, or XRP releases 1 billion tokens from the treasury, diluting the market cap. So it's just interesting that, hey, if we're in a scenario where retail is kind of screwed, how high can institutions take us, knowing that they have a Bitcoin ETF, an Ethereum ETF? And if that is the case, if the driver of this next market is going to be the institutions, the hedge funds, the mutual funds, how high can they really take it? And are the sole beneficiaries only going to be the ones that have an ETF? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean the question is like why is an institution and especially tracking performance over the last 6 to 7 months versus TradFi and commodities? It's a really difficult argument to make right now. If you're an asset manager or a wealth manager, to be in Bitcoin over gold and silver. If and when Bitcoin does start outperforming and putting in a shorter term history of outperformance, then I think you'll get some reflexivity there. And I think you'll get a lot of people bidding Bitcoin, a lot of institutions and funds bidding Bitcoin. We've seen some of it, obviously, since the ETF, came about. We saw a lot of strong inflows into Bitcoin lately. Last couple of days, there's been a lot of outflows. I'm sure today's outflows are going to be brutal from the ETF. But the question that is, as an investor, but as an institution or an asset allocator, that you have to ask yourself is like, do I want Bitcoin? Like what? And this is getting back to the identity crisis problem that Bitcoin's undergoing right now. It's like, what are you trying to accomplish with Bitcoin in your portfolio? And if it's inflationary hedge or a hedge against inflation, we saw that that's not what price, that might be the narrative, but it's not what price is doing, right? CPI comes in hot today, gold and silver are up, pumping, and Bitcoin's down quite a lot. So if you're seeking an inflationary hedge in your portfolio, Bitcoin, based on what price action is doing, is not that asset. If you're looking for beta on NASDAQ or beta on tech stocks, Bitcoin's not doing that either. It's just not. You look at, Nvidia and Meta and Tesla and Apple and Netflix, all putting in extraordinarily strong, trailing 3-month, bounces, out of the yen carry trade bottom, and Bitcoin sitting at 59K tanking today. So, I think right now, yes, there could be very strong institutional adoption if Bitcoin starts to outperform and stops underperforming. But we have to ask ourselves, what is going to stop the bleeding of underperformance for Bitcoin? And the only thing that I can come up with, honestly, is Trump getting elected and pushing for a strategic Bitcoin reserve where the United States government is actually actively buying Bitcoin. If that happens, then I think there will be a massive bid for Bitcoin, massive bull market, massive crypto bull market. I think alts will follow. I think it'll be very, very bullish. Until that happens, though, there's just not that underlying bid for and demand for Bitcoin for it to start outperforming some of these other assets that are doing really well. And as long as you have a trailing history of underperformance versus, it doesn't matter that it really, Bitcoin's at the same price it was like 7 months ago, right? And then you look at Nvidia and it's up, it's Netflix up, and you look at like the risk profile of Bitcoin and how it's viewed from its levels of volatility and how it's perceived in terms of its risk. People would just rather allocate to these other assets for now. So I honestly, I think we need a spark, we need a catalyst to set things in motion for Bitcoin.
I got you, bro.
Personally, I think that spark is the election.
No, I got you, man. I'm going to spark the market right here. Guys, I'm committing to buying $100 worth of Bitcoin. That should do the
should do the trick. Hey, we're bouncing 59.3. We're over 59.
We're over 59.3. Guys,
Michael
bull market's
Saylor
back.
heard you. He's going to issue more at the money or stock. He's going to dilute and he's going to buy another billion of Bitcoin for us.
Yeah. Man, I'm like literally when I tell you guys, almost my entire net worth, my entire everything is in crypto and Bitcoin. I mean it. I'm super bullish on this space. But I think it's just interesting conversations to have as far as where we see the market going. Cause this is a brand new, it's a brand new space. I mean, a lot of these projects that we believe are going to change how financial systems are ran, they're 4 or 5 years old. I mean, these things don't happen overnight, right? We're talking about revamping the entire financial system, moving from the COBOL system that Visa settles on to settling on chain. We have news here, and I'll share this headline. Stripe is back in the crypto game, and they've now announcing support for crypto payments on Solana. So you have Solana, you have Ethereum, you have Polygon, you have Avalanche. What's going to be next? And so, this is the direction we're going. So I think you're not going to see those massive pumps in projects that really don't have utility, that are just like, hey, you can stake and earn 60%. Okay, cool. I don't think those are the ones that are going to outperform. I think moving forward, it's going to be those solid projects, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Cardano, even XRP, which we'll get into what XRP is doing here. But, a lot of people, when they think of XRP, they think of the SEC. They have sued Cumberland, calling Solana and Polygon securities Um, Quite interesting. Now I know I'm in a spot here where I'm like, look,
Say it. Say it.
Kamala Harris, if you're sitting there and saying you're pro crypto, I'm pretty sure you could pick up the phone and call Gary Gensler and say, you need to stop this shit, right? At least make a phone call. He might not listen to you, but at least you can come out and say and speak up against it and say, you know what? We don't like the way this is happening. We believe it should be, but she's not. There is one person, though, that is doing that, and that is none other than SEC Commissioner Mark Ueda. Listen to what he had to say on an interview today.
Well, it's great to be here.
What is the SEC doing regarding crypto?
Well, I think our policies and our approach for the last several years have been just really a disaster for the whole industry. We have been setting this policy through enforcement. We've done nothing to provide guidance on it. And as a result, this is being shaped by the courts. And different courts have ruled different ways. I think what this Wells notice is, and while I won't comment on the specifics of this litigation, the Wells, what has gone on is part of a broader frustration with the fact that we have not provided interpretive guidance as to what you can and cannot do. And if you are involved in some sort of securities offering, how you register, how you get regulated as a broker-dealer, how you get registered as an exchange. Well,
you know, I really think the month of November could be a 2x month for the crypto markets. Can you imagine November 5th, Trump wins? Now the whole election of, oh my God, who's going to win is going to be more bullish. That is gone. We can now also assume the U.S. government with a Trump victory is not going to sell their Bitcoin. That's very bullish. You have the FTX repayments that have already gotten approved that by then will start being issued in cash. Not in they're not getting their Bitcoin, their Ethereum, their Solana back. They're getting dollars back. And guess what those people are probably going to do? I think there's an article out of the 16 billion, they did all the math. They expect around $2.4 billion of that money flowing back into the crypto markets. You have that. You have a seeming change at the SEC, right? Trump wins. Gary Gensler is definitely gone. We're definitely going to get a pro crypto, pro Bitcoin SEC commissioner. So the whole regulatory overreach issue that people have, that'll be gone. Then you go into 2025, and then you start seeing maybe that bill hits the House floor, that Cynthia Lummis bill. Maybe that gets things bullish. So I think, even if October ends red, which I still don't think it's going to, I think November, man. I think in November, if the election is over and Trump has won, am I crazy to think, Forrest, if Bitcoin goes into November 5th at 65K, by the end of November, if Trump wins, we can be sitting at 130?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I want to be clear. Like, I know, like I was talking, it sounded super bearish, but I am bullish on the space. I am bullish on crypto. I actually think like 57 to I think under 60 is a very reasonable spot to bid Bitcoin. And like I said, people asking the question, why is Bitcoin down? Why is Bitcoin tanking? And I'm just trying to explain that I think it's undergoing an identity crisis right now and needs a catalyst and a spark. But yeah, I think that spark is the election. And the only thing dropping harder than Bitcoin's price right now is Kamala's odds. They just are Like, I've never seen this market capitulate harder. Like, it's like ticking. It's as bad as Bitcoin's capitulation right now is the capitulation in Kamala odds. It's down to 43.5% versus 56% for Trump. We're getting to the point where you might even consider like the outside crazy possibility of throwing in a replacement, which I'm not going to go down that path right now. But I think there's things that are lined up that are very bullish for crypto in general over the next couple of months. I think October will close as a positive month as well. And I think we're probably going to bounce somewhere between 57 and 59K here. And we could be in the 60s as early as tomorrow, maybe in the next 48 to 72 hours going into like Monday. I do think I am bullish on the space overall. I think, 130K is totally possible, after the election. And in general, bullish on crypto, and my business in crypto, most of my net worth is in crypto. So I am bullish on the space. Don't mean to come across as like super bearish, just trying to explain the price action. But yeah, in general, decent place to bid. You know, I think a lot of positive things are coming down the pipeline. I do think the SEC is, you know, particularly Gary Gensler is compromised. I think he's compromised. And I think the rest of the SEC, there's been like multiple commissioners or other people in senior positions that have called out the SEC's own actions towards crypto. And I think there's going to be a change of pace after the election, depending on the results. But I think there will be a change of pace in the SEC and more positive crypto regulation coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. At the end of the day, guys, nothing has changed, right? If you've had a large position on Bitcoin and you see the price go down, nothing's changed, right? You got into Bitcoin because of XYZ, whether it's because it's the largest computing network in the world, whether it's the largest decentralized ledger in the world, whatever the reason you got into Bitcoin or any of the altcoins you have, if those haven't changed, short-term price action doesn't matter. And so I look at them as buying opportunities. No, we're getting a lot of hate in here for being bearish. I don't think I'm being bearish. I'm just looking at what is in front of me and what do I think is going to happen in the future. And I think October will also end green. I still think we'll see a 20% plus October in the green. And I think a lot of that's going to come towards the middle of the month. Middle of the month heading into the end. We don't have a Fed meeting until next month. But we know we know we're probably going to get another at least a 25 basis point rate cut. And so I think it's only a matter of time before that crypto catches up to the rest of the stock markets. And I think it's going to happen very, very fast. I do want to share some Cardano news. So to all you, for all you Cardano fans, Cardano hosts the first smart contract legally enforceable in the country of Argentina. The contract is a loan agreement between Cardano ambassadors, Mauro Andrioli and Lucas Macchia, for 10,000 ADA payable in 4 months at an interest rate of 10%. This is pretty interesting, and these are things Cardano is doing, right? Forrest, can we take a peek at an ADA chart? We know it's kind of been down and to the right. Has not changed my thesis and my outlook on Cardano. I'm a very big Cardano bull. I believe in everything they're doing. I don't pay the Cardano for me is a long-term play, so I don't really necessarily focus on the charts on Cardano too much, unless I'm trying to scalp some profits or find my absolute best entry point. But what are your thoughts on what the Cardano chart has shown us? Looks like we kind of broke out of that falling wedge pattern, so to say.
Yeah, and actually the last time I looked at this chart was actually when the last time we looked at it on this live stream, and you recall me saying like, hey, we need to reclaim this level before it's long as far as like a trade goes. Like I'm not comfortable longing it up here towards the top of the range. And I think we were also looking at something similar on Chainlink, if I recall correctly. I want to see this reclaim of the 42 cent region before I look to get long. And that could take some time. And, maybe it's December, maybe it's January. Historically, like Ethereum and alts really run well in January. And then, Bitcoin kind of dominates Q4. But we'll see if that remains the trend. Alternatively, I do think you could just buy the bottom of the range here very soon, or even at these levels. If you're just looking for a little spot bid, a little bit of exposure, look to buy at 30 to 33. And then, you have the opportunity to potentially just range trade it back up to 40. And if it breaks out, keep a runner or whatever. But yeah, in general, we are seeing this descending wedge start to level out, start to break out. It's not breaking out violently, but it has broken out and it's coming back down to retest its breakout level. So support here would be a pretty good thing for Cardano. Let's zoom into the 4 hour a little bit and see if we can spot any like bullish divergences or anything. Nothing flashing at the moment that screams buy to me. In fact, I would say this looks a little bit sketchy at the moment. Again, not saying that it can't bounce here, because again, it is going down towards the bottom of its range, could be a buy down here. But the thing that gives me hesitation is that kind of glaring head and shoulders on Cardano here. If it breaks down this way, essentially you're just looking at it to move back into its prior range and down towards the bottom of that range, which is, its bear market lows of 24 cents. So If it does, break down on this head and shoulders, I'd look to scoop somewhere down here along this kind of, trend line here, really just 22, 23, 24 cents. If you're looking for a cheap price to buy at or a bid target. Just because, you have a head and shoulders doesn't mean that it's going to break. In fact, some of the most bullish patterns are rejected head and shoulders. So a big, strong bounce here or just a sweep of these lows and a reclaim would actually be quite bullish for Cardano. And then we just kind of be, starting as this very nice, slow uptrend here, and potentially breaking out of the top of the range. For me personally, I want to see strength, right? I want to see strength in an asset. So I want to see a range reclaim. I'll go to the ADA Bitcoin chart just to chart this against Bitcoin. Let's go out to like the 12-hour. Yeah, so it is towards the bottom of its range against Bitcoin. Bitcoin really looking pretty rough here. So again, I think you could make the argument here for a Cardano buy on support. That head and shoulders on the US dollar chart just gives me a little bit of hesitancy. But yeah, I mean, you could also just go short Bitcoin, long Cardano, and look for a trade back up on this pairing. Up towards the top of this range. And then if we break out of that, that's probably where your Cardano is taking out that 40 cent level. We'll zoom out a little bit here on the 12-hour, seeing maybe a little bit of bullish divergence here on and a bit of a bounce on the Bitcoin chart here, ever so slight bullish divergence on the 12-hour. Maybe we got to the daily and see something. Yeah, not on the daily. We'll just check the 4-hour here. Yeah, a little bit of bullish divergence on the 4-hour. So I think it's a reasonable place here for Cardano to bounce. We're also seeing it break out against this trend line on 4-hour trend line for Bitcoin here. So yeah, I would be looking for strength above 40, 42 personally to bid, but I also don't in general, Bitcoin dominance is looking like it wants to top out. A lot of alts have been showing strength in this dip, not going down as hard as Bitcoin's going down right now. But that's, it's still to be. I think we're around support on Bitcoin. I think we're around support on a lot of these altcoins. Like I said, a little bit of hesitancy with the head and shoulders on the USD pair. There's a little head and shoulders here on the Bitcoin pair, but it is bouncing, right? You do have your bullish divergence, and it is actually rejecting from that head and shoulders. So if we got clearance above this kind of little double top there, I'd actually say that's pretty decent place to long back up towards the top of the range. So in general, alts, Cardano alts in general, I think are ready for a nice little bounce here against Bitcoin, and very likely see that bounce when Bitcoin bounces. The question is, in the short term, is Bitcoin headed to 57 on a bigger capitulation wick, or is the damage done here at 59K? 59K is a very big support level for me. And then 57K, obviously, the next big one down there, which could cause quite a lot of liquidations and damage in alt markets. So we shall see.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. And one more thing I want to share with the people watching is Ripple is launching a crypto storage service for banks in a bid to diversify. So this is pretty big news here. The San Francisco-based company, Ripple, told CNBC it is debuting a slew of features to enable its banking and fintech clientele to keep and maintain digital tokens as part of a broader push into custody, which is a nascent business for Ripple under its Ripple Custody division, which was formed last year. These features include pre-configured operational and policy settings, integration with Ripple's XRP ledger, monitoring of anti-money laundering risks to maintain compliance, and a new user interface that's easier to use and engage. I'm seeing this as pretty bullish, not just for Ripple, but I think for the entire space, right?
Yeah, this is, my biggest bag at the moment is Ripple. Like I'm very bullish on XRP. I think this is how, they have three pillars. They've got payments, they've got custody, and they've got stable coins, right? So this is their custody solution. And I think they're going to onboard a bunch of banks. They already have partnerships with a ton of banks, but they're going to continue to onboard banks to their custody solutions because banks now want to hold crypto. They now want to custody crypto, but custodying crypto as a bank and a financial institution comes with a lot of compliance headaches and problems. You've got private keys, you've got all of these different issues. Well, Ripple comes in and solves that for them. Hey, you want to custody, your crypto? You want to custody crypto for yourself or for clients? We can help you with that. Oh, by the way, you're our custody partner. You want to also send payments? We have a payment solution for that. Oh, you're on our payment rails. We have a stable coin for that, RLUSD. So I think everything's like, this is kind of like I don't want to say the Trojan horse, but essentially the way that Ripple gets in and partners with all of these banks, and then they spread out and use the rest of their solutions, RLUSD, the stable coin, and then XRP Ledger for payments, which should be very positive for XRP's price down the line. So I think there's a lot of patience that is required with XRP. I was not a big XRP bull until recently, but I've done a full report on it. I've done a deep dive. I've researched it. I truly do think that it's giving me similar feelings to Solana last year around this time. We were super bullish on Solana around $18 to $20, and everyone was calling us crazy. Everyone's calling us crazy for being, or calling me crazy for being bullish XRP, because it's just had pretty poor price performance long term since its 2017, 2018 high. But I do think the future is bright for it if you're patient.
The Zen of Gavin said, XRP is like a sleeping giant that sleeps in the middle of a village square who most villagers ignore. I know that was funny. You guys know my stance on XRP, man. I'm bullish on what Ripple is doing. For me, though, my biggest thing is the fact that they have said they want to keep the price of XRP stable. Also, the 1 billion token unlocks every month. But that ends in 2027. So, got another 2.5 years. We'll see what happens. That'll do it for the show today. Want to thank you all. Well, especially want to thank Forrest for joining us today. Thank you so much, Forrest. If you want more info and analysis from Forrest, go follow him on X at Sistine Research. Yeah, that's all I got. Anyone else have anything, Forrest? You got any parting words here?
Just
you need to convert to David. I think we'll get a Bitcoin bounce, and future's bright. I think you just gotta survive till the election. Survive with the election, and we'll be good.
Yeah. Broaden your horizons. Okay. With that being said, Rocco, thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope you had a great time. Make sure to come back tomorrow. Same place, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the channel. If you're not subscribed, do so. Like the video. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Sin City, crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy a dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.